absolutely no confusion. There was a written plea agreement which both Mr. Anthony and his client signed, and the defendant pled guilty to first-degree murder of Sean Jackson and the use of a firearm in the commission of that murder.
What is your reaction to this outcome?
I am relieved and happy for the family. I have my co-counsel here, Mike Holloman, and Brooke Pettit, and the three of us got to know the family and the suffering that they had been going through for the past 8 months. And so we are happy and relieved for them, for this outcome. We spoke with Tamika Jackson Smith, the mom and widow of Renzo, and she agreed with this outcome.
Talk about, was this a difficult or complex case for you guys to prosecute, just with how high profile it was, how many people were involved, how crowded it was, how many other people with weapons and other gunshot victims there were? Was this difficult for you guys to prosecute?
Every homicide in the city of Richmond is difficult, right? Because there is always a dead body at the end of it and at the beginning of it. And so they're all difficult and complex in their own ways. It certainly helped that because there was so much video from so many sources, that we were able to create a timeline with the help of the FBI and with the diligence of lead detective Jeff Prewell from the Richmond Police Department. So that was very helpful. But what really was important about this case was the fact that this was a murder that happened at a public high school graduation in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the afternoon, with hundreds of people around. And the fact that the defendant had so little regard for completely innocent bystanders and children and women and people who are celebrating their loved ones' graduations, that he had so little regard for that he brought a weapon and used it in the midst of that crowd, is really what I want people to take away from this.
Colette, do we know who killed Renzo Smith in the end?
I don't want to comment on that at this point.
And did any of those bystanders have any bullets traced to Marcion?
Also don't want to comment about that at this point.
Can you talk a little bit more about this plea deal? I know a lot of us who were watching the jury, they also looked shocked when you guys kind of announced that was going to be the outcome. Was there ever a turning point, or was that something you guys were expecting? Kind of talk to me about that decision.
Mm-hmm. So I do want to thank the jury for their diligence and concentration. We all realized that it's at best an inconvenience and sometimes very difficult to be a juror in a high-profile, multi-day case. No one expects that to be part of their life, and so we really appreciate this jury and the attention that they gave to all of the evidence. But at the end, both the Commonwealth and the defense counsel recognized that there might be legal issues, if not now, then at the appellate level, that made this the appropriate disposition on both sides.
When do you think things shifted today? When did that kind of arise?
Trials ebb and flow, and so I don't want to pinpoint anything, but we were certainly pleased with the number of rulings that the court made today, and they seem to indicate that at least at the time that we entered into negotiations with the plea agreement, that the court did not feel that there was sufficient evidence to put a defense of self-defense in front of the jury.
Ms. Vacation, you said that today brings justice to Sean Jackson and his family, but as we know, there were 6 other victims involved in this incident. Do you think there will be justice for those victims?
That's why I don't want to respond to another comment. There are still ongoing investigations, and I just don't want to make any further comment about those situations.
Will your office be prosecuting the 2 juveniles that were charged with the reckless handling of a firearm in this incident?
I don't want to talk about what my office will do other than to confirm that there are pending charges.
But one thing that came up in the trial was the connection between this case and the Davion Elliott case, which was certainly unexpected, maybe even for some of your prosecutors. How, and there's this clear sort of thread of retaliation going on here in the city. What's the solution for all the families that are going to graduations and then retaliation for something that happened last year comes back up? What should police be doing? What should communities know? What's the answer to the cyclical gun violence problem that obviously isn't solved yet?
Yeah, so I wish all of us had that answer. I wish you all had the answer, and it obviously starts with the proliferation of firearms that are in the city of Richmond. You'll recall that the defendant said, "Oh, I got a gun off the street for $500 just 4 months before he used it." I don't recall if he said it on the stand today, but you'll recall in his statement, he said he'd never shot anybody before he shot and killed Sean Jackson. So the fact that a 19-year-old on the street from somebody who met on Instagram could get a firearm and then with no training, with no registration, with no supervision, bring it out in public and use it the way that he did is a cautionary tale for all of us. And none of us want Richmond to be the next site of a mass shooting. None of us want this to occur actually in a school as opposed to at the end of a school graduation. But that mindset that Amari Pollard had is the mindset that allows something like that to happen.
So the gun was bought on Instagram, the threats were made on Instagram, and the police have talked a little bit about, we need to be monitoring social media. Do you support that?
Absolutely, absolutely. I support monitoring social media. I support the use of surveillance video. I support mom and pop stores having surveillance video in their stores. I support flock cameras. I support the residents of the housing communities in Whitcomb and Gilpin and Fairfield having the same camera surveillance that we sometimes have through Ring, that they should be as protective and have camera surveillance too, so that if something happens, there is some recording of it.